Hi, my name's John.
And I'm Allie.
And when we finished Season 2 of Fruits Basket,
we thought it would be a fun idea to look back at Season 1
and talk about all the cool details that we may have missed from an anime only
and a manga reader's perspective.
So join us today as we talk about Season 1, Episode 9, Yuki Was My First Love. Welcome back to another episode of our Fruits Basket podcast. So if you like this kind of content, you want to see more of it coming from the channel, make sure to like the video, subscribe, and why not even ringing that notification bell so you never miss another upload. Because we're going to be looking at the rest of Season 1 of Fruits Basket as a retrospective. So if you have not watched Season 2 yet, make sure to click off this video now because there will be spoilers. But with all that out of the way, where are we starting?
Well, we're starting with quite possibly the best opening to any episode in the whole series, let's be honest.
Oof. So what I want to know with this opening, as we meet Haru, why we don't meet him, but we see him like we have never seen him before.
Oh, yeah.
Is why have we not seen that dope bike or those glasses that he has are really cool.
He is a fashion icon, and you can't wear outfits twice. I don't care if this is an anime.
That's true, but those are safety glasses. He's like a phantom thief with that mask. It's a lot, but I love it. And I need it.
I love this opening. I love the women just totally wooing over him and just gushing. And
I love the little ring.
He takes himself so seriously.
It's a mood. It's a vibe.
I love Hatsuharu. I love this opening. I love everything about this episode. This is such a good episode.
There is no better true introduction to his character than this episode, because it's like a microcosm of everything about him all lumped into one singular entity, and I adore it. He's such a good character. He's just so good. But the opening happens after this delightful introduction, and we see Yuki and Kyo, as per usual, are having it out right outside the grocery store as Tohru is getting groceries.
Oh yeah. Big time grump hours. They're mad.
Yeah.
They're fighting. And it's upsetting because Tohru, she tells us that the wish that she made for New Year's was that they would stop fighting and that they would get along better, but it doesn't look like it's working. Don't really think that they're getting along yet. Still kind of,
close enough, right?
But Yuki's getting a little sick. He's coughing. They get back. He has a fever. Tohru's panicking.
Yeah, and I think, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, but I think it's so cool and just well thought out how every small little thing, even something as simple as Yuki getting this fever, illustrates part of Tohru's past, because of her situation with her father. Of course she would get very panicked with Yuki getting a fever. Of
course. No, it makes perfect sense. And it really goes to show, back when we first started watching this, I said, okay, you really gotta pay attention though. You really gotta, you have to watch every single scene and you have to take in all the information and just talk to yourself about it because, oh geez, there's a lot. And everything gets foreshadowed. And you were like,
everything.
I don't know about that. But no, it really does.
Yeah, everything is important. And I was not a believer when we started watching the show, at all. I was like, okay, there's no way that, her, doting, she's just a nice person, But, it really does hit at, her fears and her insecurities, even just, these most minuscule of moments. And the fact that so many seeds were being sown so early in the series, and everything that you could, because I feel as though you could conceivably think of a large portion of this episode as like quote unquote filler, because it's just kind of like goofy. They're running the marathon, like it's like happy go, like you know, it's not super plot centric, but like there's enough in here that's super important to so many different characters that even like the goofy stuff is like really good character building.
Yeah, if you want the characters to be able to do something cool, you have to make them notable and learn their personalities first.
Yeah. It's such which I think is something that this first half of season 1, and really season 1 in general, does so well, because it's just an establishing season. Like, you know, it's really just putting the blocks in place so that season 2 can do what season 2 does. And I think people probably, I don't know this for sure, but like, I feel like some people could perceive season 1 as being slower, but I love how well it establishes just like the world we live in, the Soma clan, and like each character individually before we can actually start fleshing them out.
Exactly. And it's so much better to show instead of tell. So we got to see how anxiety-ridden Tohru gets when someone is sick, and how she'll push aside everything to care for someone who is sick. And that is way better than us just being told that Tohru really cares about people and that she's going to help them no matter what, especially if they're sick. Because if we're told that, we'd be like, okay, I could assume that. Oh, okay, it has something to do with their father. That makes sense. And it doesn't have that impact that it does when you are shown it instead of told it. And showing takes so much longer than telling, but the payoff is so much better.
Yeah, because it gives you so much more time to weave in subtle character traits that have way better payoff. Because with just that simple exposition dump, it is like, okay, we have all the info now. Where do we go from here? And I feel like a lot of stories just give that exposition dump, and then it's lateral movement for a lot of characters. But Fruits Basket's just so good at slowly building piece by piece onto every one of their characters. I think they do it the best with Tohru specifically, because even at the end of season 2, there's so much we do not know about her internal world, but it has still been a slow and gradual progression throughout.
Yeah, and I don't claim to know everything about writing, but I know a few things, and this is what I picked up on, and it makes me appreciate Fruits Basket a lot.
Yeah, honestly.
But back to the episode. So after Tohru panics, they realize that this is really bad timing that Yuki's getting sick because they have to run the marathon tomorrow at school. And we looked up, and by we, I mean John, and then I gasped when I learned the information. Looked up what the marathon is, because we were like, do you really have to run a marathon? Like, what are they doing to these kids in high school in Japan?
Yeah, because like it did make sense that these kids would be running like 26.2 or whatever miles. And so we looked it up, and the girls have to run 5 kilometers in 35 minutes, and the boys have to run 8 kilometers in 60 minutes, which essentially, if you're not familiar with the conversion, I'll just round. Like, 8 kilometers is like 5 miles, and 5 kilometers is like a little over 3 miles, which is still, like, comparatively to our phys ed here in America, that's ridiculously long. But it's way better than 26.2.
Then they also, I could not handle this. I don't know how they do it. I would not be able to. But they do rank you, so you are in a list. You do have a placement. And that is why Kyo is so competitive, because it's something that he can be first at. So, you know, he can win. He can be number 1. And he can beat Yuki. So he's like, Yuki, don't care if you got the sniffles. We're racing tomorrow, buddy.
Yeah. And he can, like, objectively beat Yuki.
Yeah, it's not like we're just sparring in the backyard, or what they really should have had is a cooking competition, but that's beside the point. They will be in some form of placement that is definitive and true.
But, of course, who knows if that would actually work? Because the term beat Yuki is so ill-defined, and I think it's very intentionally ill-defined.
Yeah.
That, like, would beating him in a race really... Like, I have a hard time believing that beating him in a race would free Kyo of eternal imprisonment. But, like, I don't know. What do I know?
I don't know. What if he beat him in something and then Akito was like, oh, no, I wanted you to beat him in, I don't know, a swimming competition.
It's just like really offbeat. It turns into a tournament arc just between Kyo and Yuki.
Yuki's
That's
not really
season
that
3.
invested, and he doesn't understand why Kyo is so invested.
Yeah. Oh my god. That's what season 3 is. Confirmed. Like, we figured it out.
Oh, dang it. I mean...
We don't even need to watch it.
You're right, we just shouldn't watch it. You don't need it.
It's just a tournament arc. It's fine.
Yeah, I was gonna tell you after the trailer came out, but because we're still waiting on it and you figured it out anyway, I mean...
No, yeah. I mean, I'm not saying I'm good, but like... Anyways, so... Before the race starts, just a lot of things are happening.
It is so chaotic. People are admiring Yuki's bare legs.
It's like kind of like an underhanded compliment because they have them like shining like the sun. It's just like a funny scene for them to just like hone in on that.
Oh yeah, everything about this is so chaotic. I mean, Yuki's legs, Tohru being abducted by the Yuki fan club. Then Hanajima retaliates by torturing them with her wave powers, and all the while, Kyo is hissing.
And can we talk about how Hanajima is just like the best? Like, she's just the best. These last two, like this episode and the previous episode, we really get to see the duality of her character. Because last episode, like, she cares about Tohru so much that she like finds Kyo and Yuki and she makes sure that she's taken care of on New Year's, and she like really looks out for Tohru and is so caring and just such a kind soul, right? But then in this episode, she tortures people with waves, and I think that you had a very favorite line in this episode in particular.
Oh my gosh. Hanajima is my favorite in this episode because she's so much. When she, like, they start the race, guns are fired, people are running, and the first thing that Hanajima does is put her hand to her forehead and say, "Alas!" And that is my favorite line. And then she gives this monologue on how she can't go on. And all she did was take a step. And she goes, "Run well, I will walk slowly."
It's just, she's just so much. But
how she can be the comedic relief, but also Tohru's biggest cheerleader and supporter. I mean,
I live for it, is what that means. I live for it.
Yes.
But, so we're actually running the marathon. Tohru's going, she seems like she's going at a good clip. There are people behind her, like she's running. Like, she hasn't tripped yet. And she sees an elderly person, which, kind Tohru, obviously, she goes to help the elderly person. But it's Haru. And, again, style icon. He has, so, like, Haru is, like, low-key a JRPG character. Like, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Like,
definitely.
Heckin Tetsuya Nomura created this man because he has so many belts and zippers and fur.
I understand where you're coming from, but Takuya was also a style icon, and I think her style is reflected very well in Hatsuharu and Rin. So, like, I understand where you're coming from, but, like, style icon, creating style icons here. Okay.
Well, yes, but she also liked Final Fantasy, which a lot of those characters are style icons, and they're created by Tetsuya Nomura.
I understand the obsession with belts. Yes.
they have a lot of belts, and so does Haru, and therefore, I think that it's possible that there was some inspiration in this one Luke.
I could see. They run in the same circles. They have the same interests, and those interests are lots of belts.
But yeah, and so we see them interact briefly, and they hear Kyo coming and Yuki coming, and Haru decides to play a little prank.
Yeah, just casually break the fourth wall.
Which, like, the way he pulls this off, it's such a simple prank, and it low-key feels like a middle school prank. But yeah, so Haru wants to fight Kyo, because he skipped New Year's.
Yeah, they were gonna fight at New Year's, but Kyo skipped. And so now Haru, in another one of my favorite moments from this episode, which is just rich with beautiful quotes. Oh my gosh, I love them all. Haru says, "I traveled 3 whole days for this." And Kyo says, "No, you got lost." And it's just so perfect. Everything about Kyo and Haru's relationship makes me so happy because they grew up together. They actually were friends and went to the dojo together. They trained together. I mean, Kyo even has that story where he used to have to walk Hatsuharu to the bathroom because he would always get lost. Like, they have a set relationship there where they can call back on memories that they've had, and hearing them is just rich. It is just, everything about them is just chef's kiss.
Which, like, I like how Haru, like, came specifically looking for Kyo, because, like, he even says it, like, a little bit later in the episode, that he just genuinely likes Kyo, you know?
Yeah. Not many people will say that.
Yeah. And, like, as we see the series progress, like, there are a lot of people who, like, think pretty positively of Kyo, especially in the Zodiac. Like Momiji likes Kyo. Like, lots of people are pretty chill with Kyo. But, like, at this point in the show, like, he's not exactly, like, put on a pedestal, really, you know?
Nah, the only person who's put him on a pedestal is Kagura, but as we learn later, that's not really the kind of pedestal you want to be on.
Yeah, that's kind of putting him on a pedestal for her own, like, self whatever, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But, like, hearing Haru just be like, yo, I like Kyo, and, like, just wanting to fight him and just, like, actively, like, palling around with him and hearing about their relationship, like, I don't know, I just really enjoy it because this is the first time, or one of the first times, that we really see that kind of dynamic, like, explicitly from the Soma family. But Kyo doesn't take the fight super duper seriously. He's just like, whatever, like, sparring, whatever, until, like, you can also tell that their relationship is, like, good because Haru knows exactly how to press Kyo's buttons before Kyo even knows he has those buttons, because Haru mentions Tohru, and Kyo, he gets serious.
Yeah, before he wasn't really that down to fight. He was like, you just had to go dark. Now you're being annoying. Like, I didn't want to fight you. I'm in the middle of a race here. You know, gotta get out of my eternal confinement. Come on, bro. But when Tohru is brought up, his entire vision changes because he looks at Tohru, and symbolism time with Ali. I'm pretty sure that Tohru is being pictured with pink camellias. I'm pretty sure they're kind of abstracted in the background. So I'm not going to be, like, definitive. But if they are pink camellias, then it's really cute. Not only because red camellias are used to symbolize Akito, but also because pink ones mean longing. So that means that Kyo's looking at her and he's longing for her. And that's what those flowers mean. And pink is also Tohru's color, so it makes it even more special.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That is fun.
But that's when he starts to take it seriously. And he looks at Tohru, he thinks of the flowers, his longing, and he starts to take it a little bit more seriously. Like, you're not gonna do a little bit of this and a little bit of that with Tohru. I'm fighting you. Let's go, buddy.
Yeah, because this is when Haru went dark. So they're fighting, they're going full on like Dragon Ball Z and stuff. And this is when Tohru asks Yuki about martial arts, because she knows that Kyo and Haru have trained and actively enjoy martial arts. And so she asks Yuki if he feels the same. And that's when we get really the first kind of visceral flashback of his experiences with Akito, because he's thinking back to his experiences learning martial arts, and we see this like jarring memory scene of Akito covering his eyes, who we don't know is Akito at this point, but the audio gets like distorted for a second, and we warp back to like present day, and he is essentially triggered into a full-on panic attack. Like, he clutches at his chest, he immediately gets a fever and collapses, and the fight stops, and they have to figure out how to get him back to Shigure's house, because Haru suggests the main estate at first to get him to Hattori, and Yuki, because this was triggered by Akito, is like, no, not at all. Like, not the main estate, anywhere but the main estate.
Yeah, and it's really nice how Hatsuharu immediately understands that, and he goes, no, you don't want to go there? Okay, we have to go to Shigure's then.
Yeah.
And he's not admitting that he knows why, and Yuki isn't fully prepared to work on all of those emotions and dissect why he doesn't want to go to the main estate, but Hatsuharu, being that objective third party, as we talked about in the last episode, he understands entirely why Yuki would not want to go to the main estate. He doesn't need to bring it up. He doesn't need to question. And he will just do whatever is best for Yuki. Like the good boy that he is. I love and appreciate Hatsuharu so much.
Yeah. And this is when we begin really seeing the baggage that Yuki is carrying with him so profoundly in terms of his relationship with Akito. Because, as we've talked about probably more times than I can count, like, this is a symptom of some post-traumatic stress that he experiences so often when he thinks back to those times with Akito. And this is just the tip of the iceberg with this. And we slowly see more and more over time. And I'm glad that he's started being able to resolve this to some extent towards the end of season 2. But the way that they just like subtly snuck that in, and like it was like 2 seconds at most, but it's almost alarming the way they did it, like disconcerting how it happens. And it almost feels out of place in the episode, which I think is so good.
Okay, so after Yuki gets his attack and they're figuring out how to bring him back to Shigure's, Hatsuharu hugs Tohru and says that he'll carry him back on his cow body. And I love this scene, not because of how hilarious it is that any of that transpired, but more because Kyo in the background says, ask permission first, you jerk, about him hugging Tohru. And there are so many moments where you realize that Kyo is a goody two-shoes nerdy boy who just wants to take care of Tohru, and it gets me good every time. There are so many moments where like you think at first that Kyo is this roughhousing guy who just wants to beat people up and cause a muck or anything like that. And no, he hates loud noises. He wants to be left alone. He likes to sit on the roof and go stargazing. He does all of his homework. Like, he's such a nerd. And
yeah.
I love him because his immediate response is ask for permission first. And you know what, Kyo? You got a good point.
No, yeah. Totally should. Totally should. What would Rin say about this, Haru?
Exactly.
What would Rin say?
I mean, he's gonna go hang out with her right after this.
Is he?
Come on. He is. He's wearing the same outfit later on when he changes into Kyo's clothes. He's wearing the same outfit that he wears when he goes to tell Rin about Tohru.
Huh. I don't know why,
Secrets?
but in my, like, brain, while I was rewatching this, I was like, yo, Rin is, like, the incident with Akito that, like, Hiro watched, like, that's already happened. But I guess, like, you're right. Like, that's, like, they're still good right now. So they finally get back to Shigure's house, and they're just, like, taking care of Yuki, making sure he's good. He's in bed, like, very feverish. And essentially, she is very much promoting again, like, Yuki can't go back to school. Like, he has to stay. He needs to get better because colds can be very serious. And this moment, like, is super striking to me because, like we mentioned earlier, she's very paranoid about colds because her father died of a bad fever. So of course she would be very paranoid about this thing, because what if the same thing happens to Yuki like what happened to her dad? Because she's carrying so much baggage of the death of her family with her at all times, and this is just a symptom of that. And so it's striking though, because when she says this, Kyo looks at her like with this knowing, like he knows what's happening, you know, because he has a relationship with Kyoko. And just like those 2 frames of animation tell so much of a story that we don't get to see, and honestly, we still haven't seen, and I might just be guessworking, but like, well, we know that he has a relationship with Kyoko, but I'm just inferring that he knows, like, everything.
Yeah, and even beyond that, you can tell that her priorities are a little bit different than what everyone had assumed. In the first couple episodes, it is stressed to the viewer that Tohru will go to school and that she will graduate from high school because that is what the promise she made with her mother was. Like, that was the deal. That is what she promised her mom that she would do, so she needs to go to school. And Shigure says, you can go to school. You don't have to be here, knowing that she needs to go to school. That is her goal, so she should go do that. She doesn't need to take care of Yuki. But what no one else is aware of, except for maybe Kyo, is that the only thing that trumps her need to go to school is her need to take care of someone who has a fever, because her dad died of a fever. So it's that shifting of priorities. They weren't aware that was going to take more priority than going to school, but she makes that very aware to everyone, and Kyo gives her a knowing look. It's a little bit different than how everyone else reacts. And I love that scene because you learn so much about her without even realizing it.
Yeah, for sure. And so, like, so this happens, and Tohru and Haru are just kind of chilling, talking. Shigure and Kyo go to the school because Kyo's just, like, upset that he can't beat Yuki today, which understandably so. And Shigure is just a lot. And this is when Haru says that he likes Kyo, but Yuki is special to him, and that's when they kind of launch into Haru's backstory.
Yeah, Haru talks about how he used to hate Yuki because of the whole story. The rat rode on the ox, and the ox was stupid, and the whole Zodiac story continues, and people were taking it really personally, and they'd even make fun of Hatsuharu for it, which, you know, what the heck? And so that's when his dark personality came out, and he even confronted Yuki, and thank God he did, because they had such a great conversation where Yuki doesn't just tell Hatsuharu that he isn't stupid. He helps Hatsuharu figure that out and kind of break down, the curse does not define me in that way. Just because the story went this way doesn't mean that I'm stupid. I'm not stupid. And that's when he really starts to view Yuki as this special person, and he even says that Yuki helped set his heart free.
Which is just so good, and I wouldn't be surprised if, I don't know, for some reason, like, this could be totally off base, but I have to wonder if there's something in this that almost like has something to do like even further with like how the curse is broke. Like that sounds crazy, but how the curse is broken, you know?
Okay.
Because I feel like having like such a good relationship with Yuki, and like this might be conspiracy theory-y, I'm just kind of going. I feel like him having his heart set free and him just being able to be himself and working further and further towards that, of working autonomously, because I feel like he keeps getting closer and closer to that more self-efficacious, you know, like self-sustaining kind of person. And I wonder if that's how Kureno, like once he felt that, like freedom, that's when his broke. And so I wonder if, like, and this obviously didn't break Haru's curse, but I wonder if that's like a step closer, because it's breaking the roles that the Zodiac normally like sit in, you know? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. That's a fun theory.
So like, because he's breaking out of that role, as he more and more breaks out of it, like that weakens the bond between him and God, because it's breaking away from how the story is told, almost. And like, what if it's like a domino effect? Once they realize Kureno's done, like what did Kureno do? And like, he broke away, like, you know? And like X, Y, Z, like, and once the story breaks down in the modern day, that's when the bonds are broken. Whereas maybe every other incarnation had a predetermined flight path. Like, Cat gets imprisoned, Rat is first one to the party, like, Rat and God are, like, tight, like, the Ox is dumb, Ox hates the Rat, you know?
Oh, so they more play their parts. Oh, that's...
Yeah. I don't know.
That is a cool theory. I'll take it.
But after this is when Haru convinces Tohru to call Yuki by his given name.
And he blushed.
He blushed so hard that he turns into mouse. Well, rat. Rat, excuse me.
Tiny rat boy. Blush so hard. His body made of blush.
And then we end out the episode with everyone playing cards so hard outside in the cold weather, because it's still early in the year, that they all get sick. R.I.P. I'm so sorry, Tohru, that you have to endure this.
Yeah, she's just fretting over all of them, and Hatari's like, this family's gonna work me to death. I love that they continue throughout the episode to keep cutting back to Hanajima playing cards, and more people are joining her until even Kyo and Shigure are joining her. Mm-hmm. And it's just so funny. The comic relief is just beautiful.
So good. We got a lot of Kyo hissing in this episode, and that's what my spirit needed.
Honestly, I wanted to end my 2020 with an episode of Kyo just hissing a lot. That's what I needed.
And you know what? We're ending 2020 with an episode starting out positive in a positive new year. So let's hope that this episode is an indicator of what's to come in 2021 for everyone.
I hope so. We have a big 2021, so...
You act like we're getting married or something.
Well...
Crazy talk. But, is there anything else about this episode that you have?
Nope. All good.
Alright. Well, thank you so much for joining us today for our Fruits Basket podcast. If you like this kind of content, you want to see more of it coming from this channel, make sure to like the video, subscribe, and why not even ringing that notification bell so you never miss another upload. And make sure to share this video wherever you like sharing things, because it helps us so incredibly much. But as always, I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day, a fantastic rest of your week, and why not even a fantastic rest of your month. And we will see you in the next video. Later.
See ya.